There are Canadians sitting in cold homes right now, not because the heat is broken, but because they can't afford to turn it up. They're wearing coats indoors, wrapped in blankets on the couch, heating one room and closing the doors to the rest of the house, watching the thermostat like an enemy, nudging it down another degree and another, telling themselves they can handle a little more cold, because the alternative is a heating bill they genuinely cannot pay. In a country like Canada, this is not a small thing. This is a country where winter is not an inconvenience, it's a threat. Where a cold home isn't just uncomfortable, it can be dangerous. And in 2026, a growing number of Canadians are being forced to underheat their homes in one of the coldest inhabited climates on Earth, because the cost of staying warm has climbed beyond what they can afford. And here's what makes this the most serious cost on the entire channel. You can eat cheaper food, you can drive less, you can skip almost anything. But in a Canadian January, you cannot simply stop heating your home, not without risking your health, your pipes, your safety. Heat in this country is not optional, it's survival. And when survival itself becomes unaffordable, you've reached the hardest edge of the whole crisis. Stay with me. Let's be clear about why the heating crisis is uniquely serious. Because it's different from every other cost, even food. In much of the world, heating is about comfort. In Canada, for much of the year, it's about safety. A home that gets too cold in a Canadian winter isn't just unpleasant. It can lead to serious health problems, frozen and burst pipes that cause thousands in damage, and in the worst cases, genuine danger to life, especially for the elderly, the very young, and the vulnerable. Heat here is not a luxury layered on top of survival. It is survival. That means heating occupies a place almost no other cost does. You truly cannot cut it to zero. You can reduce your food and technically survive, however badly. You cannot reduce your heat to nothing in -30 and be okay. There's a floor below which cutting the heat stops being frugal and starts being dangerous. And that floor is high in this climate. So when heating costs climb beyond what people can afford, they're trapped in an impossible position, a cost they cannot eliminate, on a thing they cannot do without, in a climate that can genuinely harm them if they go without it. That's what makes this the sharpest edge of the affordability crisis. It's the point where "I can't afford it" collides with "but I could be harmed without it." And a rising number of Canadians are living in exactly that trap. So why has heating become so expensive? The first reason is the most direct. The energy itself costs more. Whatever heats a Canadian home, natural gas, heating oil, electricity, propane, the underlying cost of that energy has climbed. Global energy markets, the cost of producing and delivering fuel, the various charges layered onto energy, and the broad inflation touching everything have all pushed up what it costs to actually heat a space. The number of units of energy it takes to keep a home warm through a Canadian winter hasn't changed, but the price of each of those units has gone up, sometimes sharply. And energy costs are volatile in a way that makes them especially stressful. Unlike a fixed rent, an energy bill can swing hard from month to month and year to year, depending on prices and on how cold the winter is. A brutal cold snap means you burn more energy at a higher price, and the bill that lands can be genuinely shocking, far beyond what you budgeted. So households can't even reliably plan for it. They're exposed to a cost that's both high and unpredictable, on something they can't refuse to buy. So the first layer is simply that the fuel and power that keep you warm cost more than they used to. And in a cold country, where you need a lot of it for many months, even a moderate increase in the price per unit adds up to a heating bill that lands like a blow. The second reason is one people rarely think about, and it's quietly enormous. A lot of Canadian homes are inefficient, so you're paying to heat the outdoors. Much of Canada's housing stock is older, and older homes are often poorly insulated, drafty, and inefficient. Heat pours out through thin walls, old windows, gaps around doors, and uninsulated attics as fast as the furnace can produce it. So a huge share of the energy people pay for doesn't warm them at all. It leaks straight out into the winter air. You're not just heating your home, you're heating the street and paying for the privilege. Here's why this trap is so hard to escape. Fixing it Proper insulation, new windows, an efficient heating system costs a lot of money up front, and the people hit hardest by high heating bills are exactly the people who don't have that money to spend on efficiency upgrades. So they're stuck, too broke to afford the high bills, and too broke to afford the improvements that would lower them. They pay more, forever, because they can't afford the one-time cost that would make it cheaper. And renters have it worst of all. A renter has no control over how efficient their home is. They can't insulate a wall or replace a furnace they don't own. They're simply stuck, paying to heat a leaky home, entirely at the mercy of a building they can't improve. So the least efficient, most expensive to heat homes are often occupied by the people least able to afford it and least able to fix it. The inefficiency isn't evenly shared. It lands hardest on those with the least. The third reason is the trap hidden inside the bill itself, the part you pay no matter how little you use. Energy bills aren't only charges for the energy you consume. They also include fixed costs, delivery charges, infrastructure fees, service charges, and various flat costs that you pay simply for being connected, regardless of how much you actually use. So even a household that heroically cuts its usage to the bone, freezing in a barely heated home, still gets a bill with a hard floor built into it that no amount of thrift can remove. This is genuinely demoralizing for people trying to cope. They turn the heat down, wear the coats, close the rooms, real sacrifice, real discomfort, and the bill barely moves because so much of it is fixed. The effort doesn't translate into the savings they desperately need. They're suffering the cold and still paying nearly as much, which makes the sacrifice feel pointless. And it means that below a certain point, cutting usage stops helping. You're just cold and broke. The fixed costs guarantee that heating a Canadian home has a minimum price that's already high before you've warmed a single room. You can't thrift your way under it, so the household that's done everything right to reduce its usage still faces a bill it can't afford, on top of a home that's now too cold to be comfortable or even safe. That's the cruelty of the fixed cost trap: maximum sacrifice, minimum relief. But here's the real reason the heating crisis matters so much, the shocking one that ties this whole channel together. Heating is where the cost of living crisis stops being about money and starts being about physical safety. Canadians are being forced to choose between heating and eating, between two survival necessities. Think about the impossible position a squeezed household is now in. Every cost above heat is fixed: the rent, the insurance, the loan payments. Food, as we covered, is the flexible necessity people cut, and heat is the other one. So when the money runs out, a household faces a genuinely brutal choice between the two things that keep a body alive in a Canadian winter: warmth and food, heat or eat, and people are being forced to choose. That phrase, heat or eat, isn't dramatic. It's a real, documented dilemma that a growing number of Canadians face every winter. Do I keep the house warm enough to be safe, or do I keep food on the table? Because I genuinely cannot afford both. When the heating bill and the grocery bill together exceed what's left after the rent, something has to give, and both options are things a human being needs to survive. That's the shock, and it's the darkest place this whole channel has arrived at. We've traced the crisis from luxuries to big purchases to joys to food, and here it reaches the final floor, the choice between two survival necessities in a climate that can kill. When a country's people are choosing between heat and food, the affordability crisis has stopped being about lifestyle or comfort or getting ahead. It's become a question of basic physical survival. Warmth and food are not wants. They are the two most fundamental needs a body has in a Canadian winter, and Canadians are being forced to pick one. In one of the wealthiest, most energy-rich countries on Earth, a country that produces enormous amounts of energy, people are sitting in cold homes choosing between heat and food. If that isn't proof that something is profoundly broken, nothing is. Let me make it real. Picture an older person living alone in a Canadian winter. They're on a fixed income, and the heating bill this year is more than they can manage. So they've made a plan, the way people do. They heat one room. They close the doors to the rest of the house, seal off the cold, and live in a single warm space, wrapped in layers, keeping the thermostat as low as they dare. The rest of the home sits cold and unused, and they worry, constantly, about the bill that's still coming despite all of it, and about what happens if it gets colder. This is genuinely dangerous. For an older person, a cold home isn't just uncomfortable, it's a real health risk. But they don't feel they have a choice, because the alternative is a bill they truly can't pay. So they endure the cold, and they hope, and they hide it, because there's a particular shame in not being able to afford to keep your own home warm. Now picture a family. The parents keep the kids' rooms warm and let their own go cold. They layer everyone up, they cut every other corner, and still the winter bills terrify them. Some months it comes down to that impossible choice, a full grocery shop or keeping the house properly warm. And they make the sacrifice quietly, so the kids don't feel the fear of it. And it's happening in homes across this country, hidden behind closed doors and drawn curtains. People cold in their own houses, people afraid of the mailbox in January, people rationing warmth in a climate built to take it seriously. That's the human reality behind the heating bill. Not discomfort, but a quiet, hidden struggle to stay both warm and fed in a country where winter doesn't forgive. So to anyone watching who's living this, there is no shame in it. You're far from alone, and there are energy assistance programs in most areas designed for exactly this. Reaching out to them is what they're there for. And this costs far more than the number on the bill. First, it costs health directly. Cold homes make people sick. They worsen respiratory conditions, strain the heart, and are especially dangerous for the elderly, the very young, and those with existing health problems. Underheating in a Canadian winter isn't just uncomfortable. It produces real illness and, at the extremes, real danger. The savings on the heating bill get paid back in doctor visits, hospital stays, and worse, for individuals and for the whole health system. Second, it damages the homes themselves. A house kept too cold and too damp develops mold and moisture problems, which harm both the building and the health of the people in it. Pipes that aren't kept warm enough can freeze and burst, causing catastrophic, expensive damage. So the attempt to save money by cutting heat can end up costing far more, in health, in home damage, in disaster. And third, there's the constant, grinding dread of it. The anxiety of the winter heating bill hangs over struggling households for the whole cold season. Months of worry about a cost they can't control, on a need they can't refuse, in a climate that keeps demanding more of it. That specific stress, being cold in your own home and afraid of the bill anyway, is a heavy, ongoing weight, and it sits on people for the hardest, darkest months of the year. And this is where the heating crisis joins everything on this channel. It completes a trilogy of the unavoidable. We covered insurance, the cost you legally can't cut. We covered groceries, the necessity you can't stop buying. And now heating, the survival need you can't switch off in a Canadian winter. Together, these three are the costs with no escape hatch, and all three have climbed beyond what ordinary people can afford. When the unavoidable costs, the ones you can't opt out of no matter what, all become unaffordable at once, you're looking at a crisis that has closed every exit. And heating is the sharpest of the three, because it's the one where going without is genuinely dangerous. Food you can stretch, painfully. Insurance is money, but heat, in this climate, is life safety. So the heating crisis is the crisis reaching the absolute bedrock of survival, the point where affordability and physical safety become the same question. It's the deepest floor there is. That's the truth this whole channel keeps arriving at, now at its most fundamental. The squeeze on ordinary Canadians didn't stop at homes, or cars, or joys, or even food. It reached all the way down to the heat that keeps a body alive through a Canadian winter. When a cold, energy-rich country can't keep its own people warm, the affordability crisis has become something more serious than an economic problem. It's become a question of who gets to be safe and warm and fed. And right now, too many Canadians are being told they can't have all three. So where does this go? For individuals, there are the coping measures, sealing drafts, using programmable thermostats, taking every efficiency rebate and energy assistance program available, and reaching out for help early rather than falling behind. That genuinely isn't financial advice, just what people do to get through a winter. And the resources matter. If you're struggling to heat your home, energy assistance and low-income support programs exist in most areas, and using them is exactly what they're for. But the honest truth is the same as always. You can't thrift your way out of a survival cost that's risen beyond what you can afford. The real fixes are structural. Energy that ordinary people can afford, serious investment in making homes efficient so they stop leaking heat and money, and a basic recognition that in a country this cold, no one should have to choose between heating and eating. A wealthy, energy-producing nation keeping its own people cold is a choice, not a necessity. Which leaves the question this channel keeps arriving at, now at the coldest, hardest edge of it. What does it say about a country when its own people, in one of the coldest climates on Earth, can no longer afford to stay warm? So I want to hear from you. How much has your heating or energy bill climbed? And what have you done to cope? Have you heated one room, worn coats indoors, or faced the heat or eat choice? And do you think this can be fixed? Tell me in the comments below. And to anyone sitting in a cold home right now, you're not alone. There's no shame in it, and help exists. Please reach for it. I read every comment. And if you want honest, clear-eyed breakdowns of the forces reshaping life across Canada, subscribe to Canada Insider. There's a lot more of this story to tell.